Now, here we actually have the first and foremost concept that we need to understand is about ERP. So, since most of you already know about ERP and SAP, I'll just give you a quick review of it. We'll go in detail about what are the topics that we are going to cover in ABAP. What are the topics that we have in ABAP, and what are the projects that we are going to cover in ABAP is what we will discuss. So, ERP, as we all know, it stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. So enterprise resource planning, and SAP stands for systems, applications and products. And as we all know, we should never ever call SAP as SAP, because SAP, the founders of SAP always say that you have to call it as SAP, and because it's an acronym, that's the main thing. And the other thing is like in German language, they don't want it to be called as SAP. SAP has a different meaning in German language. Applications and products in data processing. Now here, ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, SAP stands for Systems, Applications and Products in Data Processing, ABAP stands for Advanced Business Application Programming Language. Now here, ERP actually is a concept. So what we need to be clear about is, we need to be clear about what exactly is ERP. So let me write this first: concept, company, and version. Okay, let's say I have ERP is a concept, SAP is a company, and version is something like ECC 6.0. Now it's similar to we have say car is a concept, BMW is a company. Now X7 is the car model. Now in this, if we observe here, car can be manufactured by any company. Just like car can be manufactured by any company, ERP softwares also can be manufactured by any companies. It's not just SAP which manufactures, but the one who brought this concept of ERP into the market is SAP. Okay, so it's very popular. ERP means SAP, SAP means ERP. So it's as popular as like Xerox. Okay, so if you go to any small vendor and ask them about photocopy, they say photocopy is not there in India. Okay, if you ask photocopy, they say it's not there. If you go and ask them Xerox, they say yes. But Xerox is a company name, and the concept is photocopy. Okay, similarly here, SAP has become very popular for ERP concept. So now, just like we cannot call any other product as a car, we cannot call every other software as an ERP software. I cannot show you a chair and call it as a car, because car has some basic features. And what are those basic features? We all know that. But we should know what exactly are the basic features of an ERP software. When can we call a software as an ERP software is what we need to understand. Let us quickly understand that, and we'll go to the different versions of SAP and then move on to the ABAP. So ERP, any software which is capable of planning and optimizing all resources of an organization. Okay, all resources of an organization. So ERP is any software which is used for planning and optimizing all resources of an organization is called ERP software. Okay, so in ERP, if let's say we have, okay, what are the resources that we have? Money, manpower, machinery, materials, and all this stuff. So all these things have to be taken care by the ERP software. If any one of them is not being taken care by this particular software, It cannot be called as an ERP software. Okay, let me give you a simple example. If I say, no, Govind is an all-rounder in cricket, everyone will say yes, okay. But if I say he cannot ball, no one will agree that he is an all-rounder, because all-rounder itself means that he need to ball, bat, and field very well. So similarly, ERP itself means that it should be capable of handling all the resources of an enterprise. It's not that one or two resources. It should be capable of handling all the resources of an enterprise. So that is an ERP software. Now, in this, SAP has come up with a lot of versions in the software. First software was called real-time software, and it was started in real-time software, and it was started in way back in 1972. Okay, and by 5x IBM employees. Okay, so then they started something called real-time two-tier, and this real-time two-tier is also called as R by 2 software. Then they started real-time three-tier software. This is called R by 3. Okay, this is called R by 3 software. In R by 3 we had lot of versions. So let me write like this: SAP R by 3 3.0. Okay, starting like this, then to SAP R by 3 4.7, 4.7, so on. This is what we have. Now after that they launched SAP ECC 6.0. Then we have ECC 6.0, and we have a lot of patches in this 7.0. Okay, so then the latest version happens to be SAP S by 4 HANA. Okay, what is this S by 4 HANA? We'll discuss about that later. So I'm just writing down the versions of SAP software. Now let's look at the ABAP. What is ABAP? Let's say you have a mobile. In mobile, if you want to develop an application, you need to have some language. You have to develop it in a particular language. Okay, so if you want to develop a mobile application, you have to know some language. Okay, like Java or JavaScript or something like that. Then you can develop the mobile applications for Android. Similarly, in SAP, if you want to build some applications, we will be using ABAP, ABAP by 4. This is the only coding language for SAP technologies. And SAP is such a vast company that already we have more than 3 lakh customers and 4 lakh plus installations throughout the world. And these 3 lakh customers and 4 lakh plus installations are not for small companies like you and me. These are not for small companies like you and me. They're for huge companies. Okay, very huge companies like Coca-Cola, Nestle, ICICI Bank, Reebok, Nike. All these big companies are clients of SAP. Now, coming to where does ABAP come into picture? So ABAP is as I told you, ABAP is the only coding language that we have here. So ABAP is the only coding language. Now, if let's say we have you have purchased a mobile phone. Mobile phone is something which can, let's say mobile phone is 90% ready for you to use. 90% it's ready. But remaining 10% you have to customize and configure. Okay, what is the 10% that you have to do? You have to insert the SIM, set your password, set your Gmail ID, whatever. Okay, so these all come into 10% of the work. So no matter how customized and how ready the product is, we need to still do some customizing and configuration. Let's say you want to develop new applications in your mobile phone, you have to do it, or you have to purchase it from someone. Similarly, SAP software is also 90% ready for the customer to use. Okay, and almost all top companies use SAP. Okay, and then 10% of it is something which we need to customize and configure. Okay, and this 10% happens to be very crucial. So that's the reason when I was telling you about ABAP, I always tell that we have to start the program or any object with Z or Y or Z. Why? Because all A to X, from A to X, those are all, you know, reserved by those are all reserved by SAP. So A to X. Okay, so all the standard programs, standard tables, and all will be visible to us. Those all are created with A to X alphabets. Okay, now coming to ABAP, what are the different topics that we have? Now, normally people write it. You can see in a lot of places throughout the internet. You can see a very popular term called RISEF. Okay, RISEF, and sometimes you see it as RISEF W as well. RISEF W as well. So RISEF W stands for reports, interfaces, cross applications, enhancements, forms, workflow. So these are the various topics that we have, popular topics in ABAP. But when we start from the beginning, where the first topic that we'll have here is data dictionary. Data dictionary is the first topic that we have in ABAP. Then we have the reports. Okay, reports actually is a part of programming, so we can call it as programming. Inside programming, we'll have reports, and then we'll have something called module pool programming. Module pool programming. We'll have module pool programming. Now, coming to the third topic, we'll have forms. Third one is object-oriented programming, OOPS concept. Fifth one happens to be conversions. Sixth one happens to be enhancements. Seventh, cross applications. Workflow. Workflow happens to be a different module, but we are going to discuss a bit of it. So, is there anything that I missed here? Okay. So, now what exactly is data dictionary all about? Data dictionary is all about the data and data definitions. Data and data definitions. So, all the data will be stored in database tables. All the data in SAP stores in database tables, and database tables happens to be a part of data dictionary. So we have, that's the reason we are calling it as data and data definition. So data in the database tables is stored here in the database tables, and it's a part of data dictionary. Then we have the programming. So in data dictionary, we will be defining and creating our own database tables, and we'll also understand what are the standard database tables. There are more than 3 lakh plus standard database tables already. So most of the times you might not have to create a database tables, but sometimes you have to. And here in this database data dictionary, we are going to cover somewhere around somewhere around 8 projects that we are going to cover. Okay, so database table creation 1, database table creation 2, database table 3, and then we have a database view, projection view, help view, and maintenance view, and then we have search help. These all things we have. So around 8 projects are we going to cover, and somewhere around 12 projects we are going to cover in programming. Okay, so programming we are going to cover 12 projects, and in module pool programming we are going to cover somewhere around 4 to 5 projects, and forms we are going to cover somewhere around 2 3 somewhere around 2 projects. Modulation technique we are going to cover somewhere around 10 projects, and conversions we are going to cover somewhere around 4 projects, enhancements some 4 projects, cross applications 2, workflow 1. So these are the different projects that we are going to cover. Okay, coming back to programming. In the programming, what is reports? So if you remember in your childhood, you always had a report card, right? So report card, what exactly it says? you're not supposed to change anything in the report. You're just going to show it to your parents. You're going to take it and show it to your parents. Now similarly, reporting is a concept of bringing the data from database tables. Okay, in the first phase we have database tables, right? So bringing the data from database tables and showing it to the end users who want to see the data. Okay, so we are not going to modify the data, but module programming primarily focuses on modifying the data, updating the data, saving the data in the backend. So we'll create the data, we'll delete the data. All these are called manipulations of data. So manipulation of data can be done in module programming. Module programming happens to be a very vast topic, extremely vast topic, in which we are going to have this module programming is also called as dynamic programming, DynPro, screen programming, dialogue programming. Okay, so these are all the things that we have here in the programming, report programming and dynamic programming. Then we have the forms. Forms happens to be, so module programming, we are going to modify the data in the backend. We're going to modify the data. And then forms happens to show the data in the page format. You're going to show the data in the page format. Page format in the sense, like if you want to take a printout of the data. Okay, here in reports, the data will come in the table format. It's not in the printable format. Okay, it might not fit into the page. But if let's say if you have some data which needs to be fitting into the exactly into the table, into the page. So what do we do there is, we design the page like A4 page or A3 page. Accordingly we can design, and we'll decide where the logo has to come, where the heading has to come, where the table has to come. So whatever data has to be printed, we'll design it accordingly, and we will print it from the program. So now here we'll have two types of data in the form. One is dynamic data and one is static data. Now, what is dynamic data? Dynamic data is something which will change in every page. For example, you are printing greetings for all the customers. Let's say you are Airtel company and you have 10 crore customers. You want to send the greetings to all. So you can just simply write a program, and at the place of dear customer, in the place of customer, you can put whatever name that you want. Dear Jay, dear Om, dear Prakash. So whatever name is coming, automatically that name will come in the different pages. And how it is possible? By setting up the dynamic data. So we will set it, and accordingly it will come. Static data is something which will not change in any of the pages, right? So we're going to design that. And in forms we'll have scripts, smart forms and Adobe forms. So we will be focusing more on smart forms, because scripts is completely outdated now, and Adobe forms is something which we need to have a separate software for that. So in most of the companies, if they install the separate software, then Adobe forms will be available. Otherwise they have to work on smart forms. Smart forms is by default coming in the SAP system, so you don't have to worry about it. By default it comes, the smart forms. Object-oriented programming happens to be a very important concept here, which actually covers the class concept. Okay, let me tell you the difference between normal programming that we are doing in the second step and object-oriented programming. So normal programming is just like you cooking the food for yourself. Let's say you are alone at home and you would like to cook food. So hardly you'll cook one or two dishes. Okay, one or two dishes, not more than one or two dishes, because it consumes a lot of time for you to prepare everything. So you cannot prepare. You feel like not so important to prepare more than two dishes. Okay, so now, but what if you don't want to cook and you won't go for a buffet? So if you're going for a buffet, then you pay the complete amount at the beginning, and then get in, and then you eat whatever you want. Okay, no one will stop you, right? So then, if that's the case, since you already paid good amount of amount while entering, you'll make sure that you taste maximum amount of recipes or dishes. Okay, maximum amount of dishes. So let's say now at home you are going for one or two dishes, But when you go to a buffet, the same you will be tasting at least 10 to 20 dishes. Now what is the difference between that buffet and the food that you cook is that everything is ready made. If something is ready made, and all that you have to do is you have to just keep it in your plate, and then you can eat whatever you want. So that easy. But if you have to prepare everything from your at your own in your own time, then it is time consuming and you don't want to waste time. So now normal programming is just like that. Normal programming is like you preparing food for yourself. So whatever you write, if you write a logic, then that logic will work. But object-oriented programming is like a buffet where everything is ready-made. Okay, there'll be some thousands and lakhs of classes which has a predefined code. Okay, predefined code. All that we need to know is how to make use of the classes in our programming, and that's the most trickiest part, because we'll have huge number of classes. Which class needs to be used for what purpose have to be understood by us, right? So in this like object-oriented programming, we have different types of concepts that we have. So the trickiest part is to know which class to be used for in what purpose. Okay, let's say Govind says that he went for a buffet, and he says that's a fantabulous buffet that he had, and he'll recommend me also to go and eat there. So I go there and say that this is the worst food that I ever had. Govind will be shocked, like why did he say that? So he asked me, what did you eat there? So I say like I first took the soup, and in the soup I mixed the ice cream and ate. It was not good. And in biryani I added gulab jamun. It was not good. So if after listening to this, Govind finalizes that it's not the food that is not good. It's the sequence in which, and the process and the way I'm eating it is not the right process. So in object programming, the complex situations can be done very easily, making use of complex classes already been built in. So the only tricky part here is to make sure which class have to be used in which condition. That's very important. That's very important. Okay. So now conversions is a concept of bringing data from non-SAP to SAP. So bringing the data from non-SAP to SAP means if you have let's say the data in Java system, and for the first time the client has used SAP system. So bringing all this data from Java system to our flat files and then bringing back to the SAP, we do the automation of process. We don't manually enter any data. We automate the process and then we do that. This is what we do in the conversions concept. Enhancements concept is a concept in which we add some new functionality to existing standard programs or standard tables. Enhancements is a concept of adding some new standard programs or standard tables to the existing ones. This is about the enhancements. Okay, adding new functionality to SAP standard programs. Okay, so you cannot modify the standard programs, but you can add some piece of code. So how do we add the piece of code to add some new functionality is something which we see in the enhancement. For example, let's say there is already a default screen like creation of employee data. But what if if the company wants to update the COVID status of all the employees? Then if you need to have a separate category for that, separate block for that. That happens to be in the cross applications. Sorry, enhancements. Okay, so we can add some new functionality using the enhancements first. And the cross applications is for exchange of data. So for exchange of data, sending and receiving the data from non-SAP to SAP and SAP to non-SAP, we use the cross applications concept. Okay, so we use the cross applications concept. Then we have the workflow. Workflow happens to be for automation of data. Okay, so now when will the cross applications be useful? Let's say our vendor, for example, ours is a manufacturing company BMW. Our tire manufacturing company is MRF. Now, this tire manufacturing company actually gives that to BMW, the tires. So, if let's say MRF is using some Oracle system and BMW is using SAP system, then there should be some exchange of data between them, and that is possible through cross applications. Okay, and cross applications we have various scenarios like SAP to SAP, SAP to non-SAP, and all. And workflow is like automation of process. Workflow is for automation of process. Now what do I mean by automation of process? This is basically for let's say I'll take a scenario here. Let's say any one of you is say Naresh is actually applying for a leave, and he is actually like is applying for a leave, and but he's waiting for the approval of the manager, but he doesn't approve it, and he approves it at the on Friday evening. By the time he cannot plan for his trip to his village. So this happens. If this happens, then it will be a problem. So if he has requested for a leave on Monday, at least by Wednesday he has to get the prompt reply, yes or no, something, so that he can plan the weekend. So for this scenario, let's take this simple scenario. In this, if you implement workflow automation of process, we can automate it in such a way that if his manager does not respond to him in 24 hours, then automatically that mail will be escalated to the manager's manager. Now what happens? Now manager thinks that at any cost it should not, that this small thing should not go to his manager. So what he does, it takes an action within the 24 hours. So that kind of automation of process can be possible through workflow. Getting my point? So these are some of the most important concepts in ABAP, in which we are going to cover object projects. Now, having said this, it will take at least 4 to 5 initial sessions. Like almost according to the plan, we have 7 or 8 sessions. After that, we're going to start the data dictionary, and from that time onwards only we'll start the projects. So starting initially, we have a lot of concepts that we have to discuss, like data types. What are the data types? Elementary data types and system defined data types, and what are the internal tables, structured data types, internal tables.